Okay, so you've noticed I don't recording the check-ins anymore because of confidentiality. So let's get into it. Tonight's an interesting one. We are talking about creativity and innovation and how to unlock these wonderful qualities in your mind. Because people always talk about how the importance of being creative, innovative, and productive. No matter what industry you're in, no matter what job you do, no matter, maybe even it's just making your kid sandwiches in a different way. That's creativity right there, right? But what I came to learn is the how. How do we access our innovative spirit and creative flow and mind? What is the process? How do we tap into it? Which for me is amazing. I always have a soft spot for what women have to go through. I'm also amazed that most of the people that attend these workshops and courses are women. And that's why I'm so happy Stefan is here. I don't know why men are not so interested in doing these things, doing these sort of programs. And I think men are terrified of being vulnerable and of being open, which is always quite funny because the macho guy, macho, I'm so tough. But they're not so tough because they're scared. They're scared of talking from the heart. So they're very scared. In fact, the women are the tough ones. The women are macho. The women are brave. Men seem to struggle with that. But women also juggle a lot, They juggle multitasking, exercise, looking after the kids, keeping the house going, shopping. And I'm seeing there's a lot of guys that definitely, letting go of the traditional models, and a lot of women are breadwinners. There's so many now, and I run programs for men on how to cope with that, how to deal with that, because they feel displaced and they feel disempowered, and so on and so on. It's a real thing for the guys. But yet women still have to juggle so much in this life, and the risk of multitasking is greater than ever. So they say that women are more prone to depression than men are, even though men are 4 times more likely to die from suicide. And I think the reason is men are afraid, once again, of speaking about their emotions. For them it's like an extreme sport, so they'd rather bottle up everything, and then those emotions will eventually cause a fatal illness or a suicidal sort of state. So it's vitally important for men to connect with each other or with a therapist and be able to share and talk about what's on our mind. Dr. Gabor Mate says that emotion itself, if it's not expressed, will cause terminal illness. There's no doubt about it. Okay, emotion, especially tough emotions that are not expressed, will kill you. There's no doubt about it. That's the connection between our emotions and our body. So we need to take that to heart. We need to understand that if we can create safe spaces for our family and friends, for them to feel safe, to be able to be vulnerable, for them to be able to talk about their feelings. I did therapy for a rugby player on Saturday. Young guy, he's 30 years old. I've never seen such a big guy in all my life. And I said to him, have you got anyone in your life that you can talk to, that you talk to? He said, no one. So it's quite sad. You've got this really big, strong guy, but he's got no one to talk to. Blows my mind. So we need to change that. We need to change that, especially for men. And also, for the ladies to get the support that they need to, emotionally, physically, But it's changing. The world is changing. I'm hopeful and positive. These are the functions of the prefrontal cortex, which is the front part of the brain. Task flexibility, planning, execution, flexibility of thinking, concept formation, control, abstract thinking, creativity, attention, motivation, working memory, reasoning, overcoming ingrained behavior, dealing with novel situations, decision making, error correction, and troubleshooting. That's the long story. It says regular mindfulness meditation has a direct and positive impact on the functioning of the prefrontal cortex. I mean, all of these functions, these executive functions, are what makes you smart. It is what makes you clever. So why not grow this? Why not develop it? I mean, not many of us carry rocks and bricks and hammers and spades during our working day, right? We don't. Okay, I don't know about you, but I go to gym and I do yoga, and that's pretty much all the movement I get in the day. The rest of the day, I'm sitting at my desk typing on my computer. I wish I could move more. I wish I could carry things more, but I don't. I'm a knowledge worker, and so are most of the people that are on this call. Maybe everyone. What muscles do we use the most? Our brain. What do we get? How do we make money? We use our brain. So surely it's important to know how your brain works and how to get the best out of your brain. Yeah, but most people don't understand and most people don't know. Can you bring me some water, too? Yeah. So we're going to do a little test. It's called the Stroop test. It's a psychometric. Don't worry, you can't fail it. This is how it's going to go. So column 1, you see column 1 where it says 1. It's like slightly grayed out. We're going to read it in this order, and we're going to read the color and not the word. Okay, remember that. The color and not the word. So it goes red, blue, green, red, yellow. Okay, like that. Okay, so you're going to have to all unmute your microphones. Okay, let's do that now. And we're going to do it together. Column 1 only. Okay, here we go. Red, blue,
Red,
green,
blue,
red,
green,
yellow, blue,
red, yellow, blue,
yellow,
red,
green, red,
red,
blue,
yellow,
blue, yellow,
green,
green, red,
green,
red, green,
red,
yellow.
green, and
yellow.
Well done. You guys are good, eh? Okay, we're going to shift to column 2. Remember the color and not the word. Okay, here we go. Yellow,
Yellow, red,
blue,
Blue,
red,
green,
green,
red,
yellow,
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 blue, red,
yellow,
yellow,
green,
red,
green,
red,
red,
blue,
blue,
yellow,
yellow,
blue,
yellow,
blue,
green,
blue,
yellow, red,
green,
red,
green,
blue,
yellow,
yellow.
yellow,
blue,
red.
blue,
red. You were much slower, much slower, much slower. What happened there?
You too.
You had to consciously think that you must say the color and not read what. That's fine. Yeah,
Well,
no.
exactly, Oriel. You had to really think about it, right? You had to really consciously focus. Did it feel like there was a fight, like a war going on in your brain? Like just, hey, confusion reigns? No? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. So it's quite normal if you felt a little bit confused or a sense of discomfort. The reason being is that there's 2 parts of the brain having it out. One part of your brain is called the default narrative. And the other part of our brain is called the direct experience. Now, the default narrative is autopilot. It's kind of like part of your brain that doesn't want to think too much. doesn't want to focus too much because it's trying to conserve energy. But it also gets, the default narrative can actually overtake us. And that is the autopilot brain. That's the brain that, you get home and you're like, how did I get home? I don't even remember driving, right? You're so lost in thought. You don't even remember what roads you took or where you put your car keys when you walked into the door. And that's kind of default, right? And your brain is just kind of on slow-mo, trying to conserve energy. Now, the direct experience is looking at the color and not the word. But you're so used to reading words that the default narrative, once it pushes in, it's like, I want to read the word. I want to read the word. And there's a conflict between the two. The direct experience is obviously mindfulness, and the default narrative, we could say, is autopilot. Okay, any questions or comments on that? They use this in the mines for the psychometric. And if you, it's a lot more extensive, but if you start to make mistakes or you're too slow, you don't get the job. Reason being is they are testing your direct experience, because if you're a safety officer and you're on autopilot, you're not going to see the snags. You're not going to see something that's life-threatening, because you don't see it. You're in a dwal, as they say. A dwal, is that an Afrikaans word? Dwal?
Yes.
Okay, what does it mean, dwal? Like you just kind of unconscious or something, right? Like I'm trying to think of the English word. It's such a great
Almost like you're drifting. I said almost like you're drifting.
drifting. Yeah, like you're on autopilot. I'm in a dwal. Okay. So it's actually quite interesting. Autopilot and mindfulness. One of my Zen teachers said to me that your mind is like an ocean during a storm. Thoughts and emotions are like waves, and there's winds of agitation that are blowing across the ocean of your mind, causing these waves of thoughts and emotion. The monk said, if you can cut off the winds of agitation, the ocean will settle and will be calm. And then when you dive into the ocean, you can clearly see what's going on. The coral reef, the fish. But in a turbulent storm, if you were to dive into the ocean, you would see nothing, no visibility. And our mind is the same. If in a state of turbulence and confusion and stress and overwhelm, very difficult to access clear thinking and beautiful thinking, beautiful thoughts, interesting thoughts, creative thoughts, because everything's murky. Okay, does that make sense? All right, I've got a riddle for you guys. I know it's Thursday night, I know you're feeling a little bit tired, but you're going to have to put some brain power into this one, okay? All right. I know that some of you may have heard this before. I think Antoinette has heard it before. Kerry might have heard it before. Some of you may have heard it. If you've heard it, tula wena, okay? Please don't spoil it. Don't say, I know the answer. Okay, just keep quiet for a little bit so that other people can try, figure it out. Okay, if it's obvious to you, just give it a break, just wait, and then you can tell me. All right, here's the riddle. A father and his son are traveling on Chapman's Peak, and it's raining, and unfortunately they have a bad accident, and the car goes over the edge. The boy is rescued, still alive, but the father dies. They take the boy to Groote Schuur, I think hospital there. And on arriving, the surgeon looks at the boy and says, I can't operate, he's my son. Who is the surgeon? Do you guys want me to repeat that? Or you got it?
No, don't repeat it.
Okay. I need to see if everybody knows the answer, put your hand up or use the hand up function if you know the answer. Bronwyn knows. Stefan knows. Okay, Bronwyn and Stefan know. Antoinette, you know, don't you? You can't. Okay. All right. Bronwyn, tell us the answer.
Be the mum.
Yeah, the surgeon is the mother.
Mhm. I wasn't even close to the answer.
Who did you think it was, Oriel?
I was thinking like a godfather or something because the father was in my head. I didn't even think further than that.
Sure. I was thinking priest the first time I heard it. Father, you know, when you call a priest a father, Father O'Brien or whatever. Anyway, guys, this is bias. Unconscious bias. Sorry. Doesn't mean you're stupid. Doesn't mean you're not with it. No, it doesn't mean that at all. It just means that our brains think in a certain way. And that's the default narrative. That's the part of the brain that wants to read the word and not the color. Okay, it saves energy. So when I say surgeon, you probably went for surgery, and maybe your surgeon was a man, and maybe the previous surgeon that operated on you was a man. So in your mind, you're like, guys are surgeons, right? So you don't think maybe the last operation you had, Bronwyn. I mean, how did you get the answer?
I don't know, Mark. It was the way you told the story.
The way I told the story.
Oh, I think so. I don't know. Actually, I didn't overthink that part of it.
Okay.
Just kind of.
Stefan, how did you get to it? Just was it obvious?
Oh, yeah, I think it's just having an open mind.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as you say, there's no assumption, and we have two parents. You know, it's not a one, it's the other.
Yeah.
Mark, I think it's also for me, so I like using processes like process of elimination, like Bronwyn said, the way you told the story, only the father and the son in the car, so where's the mother?
Yeah.
I think the bias part for me comes in because you used father all along, and father was used, I think 3 times. It was driving with the car, then the accident, and then the surge. The surgeon saying, "It's my son." So automatically, if you follow a pattern, then it feels like father's the next thing to say again. So
That's
yeah, it's
interesting.
just a way to do it.
Absolutely. Okay. Makes sense to me. But anyway, I think also, let me come back to the slides and we can unpack this a little bit more from a neuroscience point of view. When we look at the neuroscience, we have 80 billion neurons in our brain, and they are talking to each other all the time. As you're listening to me, you've got neurons going beep, 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 beep. Well, they don't make that sound, otherwise you go crazy. But but they are, according to Hebb, who was a neuroscientist, Hebb's law, he says neurons that fire together wire together, which means that as they start to think of a new habit or an idea or a thought, they fire, and then they create a link between them, which is that spider web looking thing, which is called a synapse. And the more you think something, the stronger that synapse grows. And I often think of it as a highway. If you think of something over and over again repeatedly, those synapses become super fast to the point where it becomes default. Okay, like reading the word instead of the color. It's default. Becomes automatic. Now, mindfulness can also become automatic. Okay? Default. It can. It feels difficult for us because we now we've got to practice mindfulness. But if you practice mindfulness regularly, it becomes the default in the wiring of the brain. And that's where we're winning. So that autopilot or default narrative is no longer the default narrative. Mindfulness is the default. Makes sense, right? So sometimes, and Stefan and I are going to jump on our motorbikes one of these days and go for a ride in the country roads. And we might ride on a road that we've never been on before. And that's like a new idea or a new thought. And the synapse still has to form. But you get on the highway on your way to Durban on the N3, and it's so big. And that's like things that you experience and think about often, habits that you do often. And that's why it's very hard to break an ingrained habit like giving up drinking or giving up smoking or whatever, because those highways, those synapses are very, very physically thick and big. And it's a physical thing in your brain. It's very hard. And then as you stop a habit, it slowly withers. It's called pruning in neuroscience, pruning. It withers as you develop different pathways. So as you move, like I've just moved to a new place, as I'm figuring out the roads and the shops, as I'm driving down these roads, I'm creating a map, a new map of synapses and neurons in my brain, which align to the map in my neighborhood, which is quite interesting, So I'm having a physical map growing in my head as I learn my new surroundings. It's fascinating. So whatever we think about, whatever we develop or cultivate is a physical thing. It's not just a thought. There's a physical manifestation that happens in our brain. Okay? It's a whole network of little spiderwebby things that are growing and pruning all the time, called synapses. And that is why we can change anything. We can give up anything. We can take on anything we want to. Because if it was a solid thing, we'd be doomed. We'd never be able to change a habit. We'd always be, well, that's who I am. But it's not true. And neuroscientists call it neuroplasticity, that your brain changes shape, size, and its connections between the synapses. Okay? So just think about that. Mindfulness can be our default. But unfortunately, most of us are on autopilot. I don't know if anyone's seen this silly movie. It's a 80s movie called Airplane. And this is the autopilot that blows up. I won't tell you where the valve is to keep him inflated, but if you watch the movie, you'll see. Yeah, I mean, she's terrified. Look at the look on her face when she's looking at this autopilot. It's the same look that I have on my face if someone is driving and texting and I'm in the passenger seat. I'm like, oh my God, a zombie. I'm in the car with a zombie. Please, no. So, texting and driving for me is like, it's like a cardinal sin, like just please don't do it. It's so dangerous. But it's the height of autopilot. Here is a wonderful table. Autopilot, we react with habit. Mindful way, we respond with awareness. Autopilot, we emptily relive the past. The mindful way, we fully live in the present. Autopilot, we neglect realities. Mindful way, we accept realities. Autopilot, we miss the details. Mindful way, we notice the details. Autopilot, we reenact established patterns. Mindful way, we see the big picture. Autopilot, we have limited choices. Mindful way, we have many choices. Autopilot, we repeat past emotions. Mindful way, we have fresh emotions. Autopilot, we neglect our potential. Mindful way, we realize our potential. Autopilot, we enjoy life's pleasures less. Mindful way, we enjoy life's pleasures more. If I think about mindful eating, the last one really speaks to me, right? Because if you're really tasting your food, you know, that's enjoying pleasure more, right? Like if you're watching a good movie or you're reading a book and you're really reading it and you're really watching the movie, you know, it's wonderful. Or making love, or, you know, like sometimes people are not even there for that, thinking of something else. So anyway, maybe there's one that jumps out for you that you want to comment on. You're more than welcome to. Antoinette?
I think just to connect to what you were saying about mindful eating.
Yeah.
So for me, if I had to go and taste, I'd eat fudge and sweets all day long. I really do. I love sugar.
Yeah.
I also love honey.
Honey.
And yeah, I love honey. And what's naturally started happening for me is I feel how the food lands in my body. Not necessarily taste-wise, but how the energy, how the prana of the food is feeling.
Yes.
So, you know, the honey is super, super sweet, but I can feel when it comes into my system, whether I eat 1 spoon or 3 spoons, whatever, I can feel it actually landing in a way. And I notice that like clean foods, like just an avo or 2 avos even, who cares how much fat is in an avo? You know what I mean? It feels better for me specifically than a banana, let's say.
Okay.
So I'm literally trying to just go with what is my body doing with that thing I'm taking in energy wise?
Sure.
Does it feel good or not good?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then water, there's definitely a thing about we're lucky in Cape Town, we've got quite a lot of springs where we can go and fetch water. But one of the big ones is at Newlands, actually where the brewery is. So you can just pull in there and just fill up your big containers.
Fabulous.
And the water is definitely, I wouldn't even say it tastes so much different to other water, but I can feel it as it comes into my body. I can just feel it. It's different to tap water, or let's say a specific brand of even spring water. You know, I can feel the life force of it, and that I'm very grateful for.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I used to eat KFC and chips, streetwise. And an hour later, I used to feel like tired and sick. And then I switched to eating salad and vegetarian, and I was like fully energized and happy, you know, like an hour later. And I was like, I love KFC, but then I had to give it up because I felt lethargic and just, I couldn't move. You know, I don't know, like people drink KFC chips and a Coke. Like it's the worst thing you can do for your energy levels. The worst. So I hear you. My teacher said that foods with the most prana are foods that take longer to go stale. So you can imagine like a potato, carrots, you know, foods that take longer to go stale, have more life energy. So that was quite interesting from a pranic point of view. Yeah. So, but yeah, thanks, Antoinette. I wish we had beautiful spring water in Josie, but we do out in Magaliesburg, you know. Anyway, I'm not going to go on about that. Danielle, you got your hand up?
Hi, yeah, Mark. I just the first one, react with habit, and then the mindful way is respond with awareness. So one of the things for me that I've noticed, and this is just being back home, is like you with the texting, similar for me. But I've noticed that when people put the phone on speakerphone and they carry on with whatever they were doing,
Yeah.
is you just reacting with habit, you mindlessly, like on autopilot, just having the conversation. So for me, I don't enjoy that, and also don't like, even though I've got the hands-free kit in the car, like all most of our cars have it. I don't enjoy speaking on the phone in the car because my full awareness is not, on the part that I should be paying attention to. I mean, this is also because I love driving long distances, so for me, that's something that I've noticed. And then the part that for me is an area I've noticed a lot in myself over the past 6 months is we neglect our potential. So I feel like I've been like the Walking Dead for the longest of time. Because since I started becoming or since I became a host on October Health, for me, I'm realizing my potential because with each different topic, I'm stretching myself. I'm on this course. I chatted to you. I'm on this course. I'm stretching myself. I'm doing another course. I'm stretching myself. I'm reading more. I'm listening to more podcasts. I'm listening to more audiobooks. So you can actually, start realizing your potential when you do it in a mindful way. So that's just in the past 6 months, consistently for me increasing that. And it's been a wonderful experience. Thanks.
Beautiful. I mean, I love what you say. Um, we could be sitting watching Netflix tonight and just vegging out. And I think a lot of the time we might look at this class and say, oh, I got my class tonight, don't feel like it. But that's your default narrative talking, trying to save you energy, but at the same time dumbing you down and making us sort of pop. Whereas we say, okay, fine, I've got my class, I'm going to show up for it well. And I'm gonna further my understanding and education of something that's extremely important. For me, it's the most important thing in life. And I just see the changes in people. And Danielle, you're one of those people that have just in the darkest time of maybe, I don't know, of your life, but it seems like you've been through a really tough time. But you've got such resilience and such energy and such power that you just don't give up, because you could just curl into a ball and, I don't know, watch Netflix or sleep or whatever, but here you are, and you're a great offering to the October Health and whatever else you're going to be doing. So pat yourself on the back there, girl. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. Yeah, this is I'm going to send this guy to you guys on WhatsApp. I think it's really important, all of it. So many people, even that I see in the corporate world, they miss the details because they're in a meeting, but they're not in the meeting, and then they don't know what anybody said, and then it's a big gemors. I mean, that's one way how not to climb the corporate ladder. Yeah, Albert Einstein, I love this guy. A genius. There's so many quotes that I use of his. This one I like a lot. We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. So he's saying that we create our problems. And Ellen Langer from Harvard University, who is a mindfulness professor for the last 35 years, she says 47% of our day we are not really present. We are on autopilot, which means we are multitasking, or we are thinking of the future, or we are thinking of the past. We are not in the moment. And she says when we are in that place of autopilot, we do things and make decisions, that's when we cause all our suffering. She says when we are mindful, we're planting powerful seeds of awareness and awakening. But almost half of the time, we are not here. And I joke around on the October app and I say, you know, we are time traveling zombies, you know, and people are like, what? Yeah, we time traveling zombies because we're walking around, we're dead, but we're walking around because we're not here, we're in the future or we're in the past. So we're not really like a zombie. Zombies are not here, but they're walking around like they're dead, you know, but they're still walking. So we're time traveling. We're time traveling zombies. Okay. Danielle saying definitely a very challenging season, but lots to be grateful for. Thank you. Still hard, but that's what grows. Grit growing stronger each day. Thank you, Danielle. I'm inspired by what you said as well. And so how do we think in a different way? How do we think differently, like Albert Einstein? You know, I worked in the advertising industry for, I don't know, 22, 23 years. And one of the most incredible things was how to get people to be creative. Now, advertising industry is all about creativity. That your client comes to you, might be, I worked for Pick n Pay on the Pick n Pay account when I was 22, 23 years old. I mean, I landed a big job at a young age. I wasn't ready for it. I wasn't in the right place for it, but it was impressive. I got out of it because I hated it. But the whole thing was, how do you get people to be creative? And even within advertising, people didn't understand this. They didn't understand this. I had a boss who, I'd say, when was it? 2012. I left the photographic industry and then I went back into advertising. And I had this woman, I mean, I lasted 3 months and then I pretty much gave her the middle finger because she was horrible. And we would be in a brainstorming session and she'd say, right, we're going to think about a concept for Nissan, for a billboard. And we got to come up with a catchy slogan. And we'd all be sitting in the boardroom and she was, you know, there was no fun about it. There was no like lightness. It did not feel safe. It wasn't a safe space. And then she'd walk around the room and she'd say, what's your big idea? You haven't said anything. What's your idea? You know, but it's serious, like, and we're all sweating. Oh, don't know. And none of us came up with any good ideas. Nobody. No one. You know why? Because of the amygdala hijack. We were terrified. She put us into fight, flight, or freeze. Now, when you get into fight, flight, or freeze, your prefrontal cortex shuts down. Your hippocampus is affected. You can't remember things properly. You can't think properly. There's no creativity. Remember the executive functions that we looked at. Remember those executive functions. I'm going to take you back to that quickly. And I hope I don't freak you guys out. There we go. There's the there's the executive functioning. It's so important. All of these things shut down because our amygdala is going, this woman's a threat. She could kill me. She's not going to kill you, but your amygdala treats it as such. So you move into, I'm going to run away or I'm going to fight her. Now, you're not going to fight her because you'll lose your job and you'll be thrown into jail in the modern world. But you're an ancient human. Do you know that farming was only invented 12,000 years ago? So before that, okay, for 187,000 years, humans were hunters and gatherers. 187,000 years, or 88,000 years, we were hunting and gathering. This office chair thing with a Zoom, and it's all very new, okay? If you look at the 200,000 year process, your body and your brain has not changed in 200,000 years. And you're an ancient creature trying to adapt to a modern world where we don't kill people and where we don't run away from our boss. So what do? We freeze. We go into freeze response. Do you know why we freeze? Because if you're walking in the savannah and there's a lion right in front of you, the only thing you can do is poop yourself and freeze. So what you do is you faint. Do you know that? That's why you faint. It's the body's so clever. It plays dead. You play dead. And that's the last defense that the body has when it realizes it cannot run or it cannot fight. So what does it do? It plays dead. It just freezes. And you better hope that the lion thinks you're dead. You know, because you might not wake up from that one. But it's clever. The body is so smart, but not smart in this modern world. In this modern world, not at all. Not at all. So, you know, I used to work in a photographic studio, and I was working with this guy who was taking pictures of cars. Now, to photograph a car is very tough. Basically, a car is like a mirror. It's like this big mirror. It reflects everything. So you've got to position your lights in such a way that you can't see the lights in the car when you take a picture. It takes 3 hours to capture one picture. So they charge a fortune for cars. Anyway, this photographer had an assistant, Johnny, and Johnny was moving the lights around. Johnny's been working as an assistant for this guy for 15 years. But Johnny's a bit dopey because he had a few drinks the night before. So the photographer says, Johnny, you're so fucking stupid. So Johnny's like, what? And then he freezes. Then all of a sudden you see Johnny shut down. All of a sudden Johnny doesn't know what light is what. He doesn't know where to put himself. He doesn't know where to put the light. And what happens is the photographer gets madder and madder, and Johnny literally is like a deer in the headlights, and he cannot carry on working because stress has made him immobile. Is it the same for panic attacks? I would say so, Danielle. The freeze response, yeah, panic attack is the body's way of telling you to, yeah, I would say it's just an overwhelming. I mean, that's interesting. It's an interesting question, actually. I wonder if anybody else has any answers on that. But I would definitely say so. It's a stress response, a panic attack. Yeah. I think a panic attack is just the body's overdrive. I think a panic attack goes beyond fight or freeze or flight. It's actually like the extreme, you know, where it's just in meltdown, in overdrive, perhaps. Antoinette?
Mark, I was by coincidence today just listening to something about biohacking, and they were talking about anxiety attacks in itself. So it's actually a stress response, like you would say, and there doesn't have to be a cause at that moment.
Sure.
You can wake up in the middle of the night and then just have it. It's a response because of there doesn't have to be there doesn't even have to be a thought to trigger it. It's a response that happens in the body.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was interesting.
I hear a lot of people say that. I just had a panic attack out of the blue, and I wasn't even anxious. I hear a lot of my panic attacks were caused by thinking. So I don't relate to just panic attacks out of the blue, but I know it happens. A lot of people tell me it does. Danielle?
Yeah, my last one, the big one, was like that.
Yeah.
I was in the mall, just going to Woolworths, actually, and at the counter, it just started. And then I was lightheaded, and then they rushed me to the emergency room in the shopping center, actually. And it wasn't triggered by anything I was thinking of. So that was just, you know, what my body did at that particular point in time. And then I had milder versions with similar, also just came out of nowhere. So yeah, but
Yeah.
mindfulness has been amazing where panic attacks is concerned, because as soon as I feel like it's coming on, then I start with it and it just calms it down completely.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Well, there we go. What works for me in a panic attack, and I've discovered recently, is to breath retention. To try and hold your breath as long as you can. I don't know, it works really well. So I'll take in a deep breath and just hold. And then exhale. And I'll try and increase that. Boom, all of a sudden the panic attack gone. You see, the way we breathe is sending a signal to our nervous system. So if we are breathing very slowly with breath retention, we're saying to our nervous system, we're fine, everything's fine. Because when you relax, you're breathing slowly, almost not breathing in a way, you know. But when you are super stressed and super nervous, your breath is very short and shallow. So the breathing does definitely communicate to the nervous system and then stops that level of anxiety. But no guarantees, no guarantees. Antoinette?
Sorry, Mark, what I also wanted to just ask you, because that was also part of what I was listening to today. There was a guy, he got shot in the Amazon basically from behind. So he had punctured lungs, punctured heart. Yo, it was a crazy story. And these two guys that were then chasing him, and he then fell down and he literally thought he was dying. He couldn't move, but he was actually not dying. He obviously, and he was speaking about that, saying that it's the body's response. So like animals who fall down and they pretend that they're dead, they don't actually have any no, they don't plan it. They don't go like, oh, I've got the superpower, I'm going to fall down, pretend I'm dead. It's a mechanism of the body to protect itself.
Yes.
And as far as I understand, a panic attack is the same. It's trying to re-regulate the nervous system. Am I correct?
I don't know.
Okay.
I honestly don't know.
Trying to communicate something isn't working properly.
It could very well be. It's very profound. It's a very big question, actually. It could be. I'm going to try and look into that. Okay. Very interesting.
Sorry to put that on you, but it was, it's...
Yeah. No, it's fascinating. It is. The freeze response is beyond our intention. It just happens. It's like the body has its own intelligence. And that's why the body scan is so important, because we can listen to that intelligence. We can tap into that intelligence and listen and you know, learn something from the body. That's why the body scan is so vital. Because how else are we going to listen to the body? So coming back to creativity, how do we generate good ideas? Where is it where you have some of your best thoughts and your best ideas? Where are you? Have you thought about it? Are you in the principal's office getting moaned at? Are you going for a walk or a run? I don't know, guys. Maybe you could pop it in the chat or unmute. Where are you where you have some of your best thoughts? Stefan?
I think when we are relaxed and in a place of peace, because that is mostly where inspiration comes from, and when you are connected. You know? And possibly in other instances as well, but that is the easiest. And when it flows.
Sure.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Yeah, I would.
Then it's easy.
When it's easy and safe. Nice. Anybody else?
For me, it's I find when I am with a group of like-minded people and I'm intellectually stimulated, then my ideas just flow. It's just I'm working on a project right now, and I'd only met one person in that call. The other person I met for the first time, but immediately we just connected and we're going to be starting on a project. So for me, when I find that, and it's obviously part of the environment that's being created, that it's, as you're talking about, a safe environment, but it's also a stimulating environment. That's when I find my best ideas come out.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you. I like that. Perfect. Antoinette is saying in the shower, water, nature, creation. When you wake up from sleep, you got a formula in your head and you go and make it straight away without questioning. Guys, you got to see Antoinette's paintings and the things she puts together. She's extremely creative. Extremely creative. So any other thoughts or comments around where you have some of your best ideas? Okay. If we think about Archimedes, he was a Greek scientist. He was in a little village called Syracuse, and he was in the bath. And all of a sudden, he had this idea about the aqueducts in Syracuse and water displacement. And he jumped out of the bath, shouting, "Eureka! Eureka!" And he ran down the street naked, shouting, "Eureka! Eureka!" You know, these days you'd be arrested, but they probably said, "Ah, you bloody old fool." And he was just chilling in the bath. Okay. So when we feel relaxed, when we feel happy, safe, calm, we have our best ideas. Not when you are being bullied or pressured by your boss. And if you're a leader in a leadership position, this is key and vital information. If we put pressure on our staff, we're not going to get anything good out of them. If we create a safe and nurturing environment, you've got to read a book called Time to Think by Nancy Klein. It's a bestseller. You read it, Danielle. She talks about that everyone is smart. Everyone's a genius. You just got to give them time to think, space to think without them feeling pressurized, even introverts, etc., right? It's also a neurological process. So I want to share this with you. This is what happens. So the human brain waves. So here we have gamma, which is a burst of inspiration when we have that eureka moment. This is a typical EEG reading, okay? You put that thing on your head, you know, all the suckers and wires. I've had it done. It's weird, eh? And then, yeah. Then there's beta. Beta is when you are cognizing, when you are alert, when you can be brainstorming and talking to people. Like Danielle says, you can be, but you're very much still almost on the border of stress. You're still busy. Your mind is busy, but you're talking to other people and you're working something out. It's also what they call convergent thinking, convergent thinking, where you are working together on a plan. This one here, alpha, you see the nice smooth curves. That is when you are in meditation, mindfulness, or relaxation. When you are feeling chilled. Do you know what happens in this place? It's something called divergent thinking, where you have wow, aha moments of, oh geez, I just solved this incredible problem. Wow. And we're coming back to this quote by Albert Einstein. We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. So a mindfulness technique by John Kabat-Zinn. Danielle saying, when I'm on an aeroplane, watching the clouds, time to think. Yes, there's a course, thinking environment. Yeah, beautiful. What was I going to say? I've lost my train of thought. Oh, yes. Thinking environments, time to think. When I put pressure on myself to think like I'm doing now, what was I thinking about? if I get nervous and I better think about what I was thinking about, it goes away. It's like meeting someone in the shopping center and you don't remember their name and you're thinking, what's their name? And they say, hi, Kerry, it's good to see you. And you go, yes, hi, my friend. But inside you're sweating, right? You're going, what's their name? Quickly, think of their name. And what happens? They say goodbye and they walk away. And as they walk away, what happens? Their name pops up in your mind because you stop pressurizing yourself. John Kabat-Zinn, non-reactivity, open-heartedness, and non-judgment. He's got another one. He's got a few more, but this one is called non-striving. John Kabat-Zinn. Did I? Non-striving. John Kabat-Zinn. Yes, John Kabat-Zinn. Non-striving. He says, don't strive. Give up trying too hard. There's a wonderful meditation master by the name of Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche. And he says, when you're focusing on your breath, don't try and focus on your breath. He says 30% focus, only 30%. He says, like soft cotton wool, touch the breath. But don't try too hard. If you try too hard, it creates agitation in the mind. Just the same way that Johnny was afraid of the photographer shouting at him. Your mind then goes into a state of freeze or fight or flight when we put pressure on ourselves, when we don't show ourselves kindness, when we say, I am going to do this fully, with 100% focus. Give up on that. Give up on perfection. You know, perfectionists are the biggest procrastinators because the task seems almost impossible to make it perfect, right? Give up on perfection. Give up on striving, and then you'll find that your focus will be there. Non-striving. One of the best ways to problem solve, and it's a meditation on its own that I'm not going to do tonight because of time constraints, but you can try it, is think of a problem in your life that you can't solve, that you're struggling with, or an issue. It doesn't have to be a problem, it can be an issue. You're battling to fix it, solve it, come up with a new plan. Bring it up into your awareness, and then don't try and solve it. Just focus on your breath and then put it on the back burner, like let it simmer, you know, on a warm plate. Let it cook. And remember the story of the ocean and the waves. Calm the mind, and then all of a sudden some bubbles start to come up from the bottom of the ocean. Ideas, divergent thoughts, and solutions of the problem that you're trying not to think about, or not even trying. You're just not pushing. You're not stressing about it. You know what I mean? Now, I'm not saying it's a foolproof formula, but it does work. It does work. My best inventions is when I'm in meditation. And I'm not even thinking about good ideas. I'm just trying to meditate. I'm saying my mantra, or I'm visualizing, or I'm doing breath, and I'm not even thinking about stuff. But then all of a sudden I'm having really good thoughts about my day. So I keep a little journal next to me and I write down these things. Otherwise they interrupt my meditation practice. And then my teacher says they're a hindrance, they're a distraction to your meditation. I don't see that as a hindrance. I just say, okay, interesting. I write it down. And then I carry on with my meditation because I know my brain is in alpha brainwave state, which is where great ideas come from. And I can't stop them, and I don't want to. And I welcome them. I just wanted to share with you, before we get into our meditation, some interesting quotes. Here we are. Leonardo da Vinci. Every now and then go away, have a little relaxation, for when you come back to your work, your judgment will be surer, since to remain constantly at work will cause you to lose power of judgment. Go some distance away because the work appears smaller and more of it can be taken in at a glance, and a lack of harmony or proportion is more readily seen. He's saying, take a break, step away. You'll see it better from a distance. Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. When I am completely myself, entirely all alone, or during the night when I cannot sleep, it is on such occasions that my ideas flow best and most abundantly. Whence and how these come, I know not, nor can I force them. You see, divergent thinking. Nor do I hear them in my imagination, the parts successfully, but I hear them at the same time altogether. The absolute symphony, altogether at the same time. Divergent thinking. Jay-Z, in New York. You know that song with Alicia Keys? Anyway, I'm not really big into rap, but I like this guy. He says artists can have greater access to reality. They can see patterns and details and connections that other people, distracted by the blur of life, might miss. Just sharing that truth can be a very powerful thing. He's talking about patterns and connections and details that people can't see because they're distracted by the blur of life. What can we see when we slow down? Danielle?
Mark, I just wanted to share, you know, the story you told earlier about the dad and the son.
Yeah.
Showed us the visual, then you took it off, and then afterwards, when we gave the answer, you showed the visual again.
Yes.
I think that is very powerful if you actually keep the visual up when you're telling the story, just on this point that Jay-Z is talking about here now, is that we'll be able to make that connection, because the first thing that catches my eye is a female.
There's a woman.
And
I know. That's why I chose this visual.
I know.
Guys,
I just thought about what you're saying. You'll be able to make those connections and see the patterns. When you read Jay-Z's quote now, for
yeah,
me, just stood on that one. Thanks.
exactly. There's a woman there. You know, it should be. I gave it away. I gave it on a plate to you guys. Don't say I'm not kind. Thanks for remembering, Danielle. That's very observant. Very observant. Okay, this is our meditation practice tonight. Remember, the way that you build your mental health is through the cycle of mindfulness. You focusing, your mind will move, you bring it back. That's how you stay out of trouble in your mental health, by building the muscle of bringing your mind back. And we do it again and again and again and again and again and again. And that's cool. It doesn't matter how many times you do it. So let's choose a comfortable seat. And 2 feet on the ground. And let's take in a nice deep inhalation through the nose. And breathe it out the mouth. So now just focus on your breathing at your nose if you can. And don't even try to focus too hard. Just soft, non-striving, cotton wool focus. Gently, gently touching the breath. Give up striving. Now, if a thought arises, we can look at that thought and just label it. Thinking, instead of diving into the thought. Just label it. I'm thinking, and come back to the breath. Perhaps you have a sensation in your body. You can label that. I'm feeling, and let it go. And don't get into the storyline, just label feeling. Or maybe you hear a sound that's distracting you. You don't think, what bird is that, or what motorbike is that? Just hearing. You label it twice and then come back to your breath. So your breath is your anchor, and then a thought, thinking, a sensation, a feeling, or a hearing. Just say it twice and then come back to the breath. All right, let's end this practice with a nice deep breath in and release. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. So that is our homework. I will send you the link to the practice on Insight Timer. I don't think you'll find this, it's called the labeling practice. You might find other teachers doing it, but it's quite a rare meditation because your mind hasn't got anywhere to go. You know, when you get distracted, it's part of the meditation actually. So it's very interesting. It's an ancient Pali approach, Pali, P-A-L-I. Very ancient meditation. It's probably about 2,000-year-old meditation, 2,500 years. Yeah. Stood the test of time. We're going to continue with our gratitude journaling and non-reactivity as we did in the week that's just passed. We're going to carry on. And then I'm going to send you a mandala. Not a mandala, a mandala. Okay. You might have a mandala book at home. Then you can use whatever you've got. That's fine. You don't have to use the one I'm sending you. But I'll send it on email and WhatsApp. And then you're going to have to print it and maybe just buy some cheap pencils from Pick n Pay or wherever. And there's no rush. Remember, non-striving. You don't have to finish it by next week. You can finish it whenever you want to. There's no stress. But I like to do this, and you can do it while you, I don't know, watching TV or you're in a meeting. I find I do this during a Zoom or a Teams meeting, and it calms me down, and I'm not very reactive, and I'm listening, but I'm just kind of doodling. It's nice. Or you can just do it without anything else, just as it is, you know. And it's quite addictive once you get into it. When was the last time you colored something in? I'm sure for internet it's a daily thing. But you know, for most adults, we don't play, we don't do these kind of things. Kids love this, right? Kids love it. Let's be a bit childlike again. Let's be a bit playful. So that's the home practice. And then when you finished yours, please send it to me, and then I can post it on the group, on the WhatsApp group, you know, so we can all go, oh, it's beautiful. Oops. So journal, labeling practice, and mandala practice. That's the home practices. Until next week. Is there any closing comments or questions before we go?
Mark, just from my side, with the labeling practice, in our check-in, I mentioned sound is amplified for me. This is something that I noticed with my son, and my mom does the same thing, is very attuned to the environmental sound. So I find it very difficult to tune that out. So I just plug my ears with my fingers, or I'll use sort of earplugs. But what is a good way to sort of get that help you if it is amplified like that for you? Because I close my eyes for visual distractions, but sound is very difficult for me to not focus, or that's a distraction that I struggle with.
Oh, welcome it. Say, fantastic. The more distractions, the better. The more sounds that you can pick up on, the better. And then you can just say, hearing, hearing. So there's no failure. There's no I'm failing in this. There's no, oh shit, I'm supposed to be on the breath, but I'm stuck on sound. No. Every time you get distracted, you just go, hearing, hearing. Hearing, hearing. Hearing, hearing. Come back to the breath. So you're playing with it. You're having fun with it. There's There's no problem with sound. There's no problem with sensation. There's no problem with thoughts either. You're just labeling it. That's all. And when you label it, you also almost put a stop to the storyline. So say for me, motorbikes. I mean, I can hear a bike go past, and I'm like, that's a KTM, that's a Triumph, that's a Harley, that's Suzuki. I can hear by the sound of the engine, but then I'm like wondering what the bike looks like. No. Just hearing. I don't even want to start thinking that's a KTM. I'm just hearing the sound as it is. I want to get out of the mental constructs, the default narrative, the storylines. So I just hear it. It's just a sound, right? That's what hearing, by saying hearing, that's what it does. So I hope that makes sense, Danielle.
Yeah, it makes sense. Thanks, Mark.
Okay, it's fine. The more distractions, the better, because then you've got more labels for it. I'll never forget, I think it was Rob Nen. He said, let's do a meditation. Try and think of as many things as you can. And then after 5 minutes, he said, how did that go? I said, we couldn't think of one thing. The mind's like a naughty child, right? The more you try and suppress it or compress it or push it in this direction, the more it's going to do something else. We know this. Don't know why, but it's true. It's like a slippery fish. Just let it be. Just leave it alone and play with it and let it do its thing. Just be aware. Such a big thing we're working with. It's like everything. All right. Any other questions? I know we're running a bit over time now. Let's see. Coloring in my stress reliever. Yeah, Oriel, have kiddies coloring books. That's cool. That'll work. All right, friends. Love and leave you until next Thursday. All the best with your non-striving. Let it go. Let it go. And enjoy. Have a wonderful weekend. Adios.
Thanks, Mark. Bye.
Thanks, Mark. Night, everyone.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.